Welcome back, folks. It's week 2. I know you're excited. We're pretty excited as well. We're going to go through it with Matt Derrick as well as Dan Harms to help me figure out not only what we think is going to happen, but what our expectation is for the upside. We're going to get into all that and more here in RGR on the Game Plan video. Welcome. Chiefs Kingdom, this is going to be a fun one because every time there's a new game, we get to come up with a game plan, just see what the coaching staff thinks of it. But we wouldn't be able to do that without some help from our sponsors. So I want to let you know who's helping us support those that support us, if you would. Well, Chiefs fans, now is the time to celebrate. And DraftKings, the official draft fantasy partner of the NFL, is putting you at the center of this weekend's action. New customers can get a free shot at $1 million top prize with their first deposit by signing up and using our code RGR21. Get into the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at $1 million payday. Download the DraftKings app now and use the code RGR21. This week, new customers get a free shot at the $1 million top prize and compete in millions of prizes across all kinds of different contests. Again, the entry code is RGR21. You get a free shot at $1 million prize on your first deposit. That's RGR21 only at DraftKings, the official draft partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit, eligible restrictions apply, and see DraftKings.com for more detail. Detail is what I'm always looking for, whether it's DraftKings or this particular show. So, Matt Derrick, Daniel Harms, how are you guys?
Doing well. It's glad to have Matt on with us for one of the first times since the draft. So this is gonna be fun,
right? I know I don't get to see Daniel very often, so this is pretty good. Exactly, a lot of fun.
You know, and after a week where things went well, but maybe not as expected, I think that's the fun part. And that gets us to this point where we start to make adaptations. And folks, we're going to give you this every game Friday, every Red Friday. You will have a video from us. We'll try to make Matt get here with us when he can. No guarantees, but I'm going to flip this, Matt, so we can see you a little bit better because I need your opinion. I think there's something in the water in Baltimore. I think it breaks bones and tears menisci and does all kinds of nasty things because this Ravens team is falling apart, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have been through it before. The Chargers are perpetually through it. Every once in a while in the NFL, you just feel like you get snake bitten and the injuries pile up. And the Ravens are having one of those right now. I'm sure they're not doing anything differently. I can't imagine it's a turf problem or anything else. It's just every once in a while you just get bit. And yeah, I mean, it's really hard to keep track of, where this team's at and what's going on. I'm still vacillating on my prediction for this week because I just keep adjusting it based on the news that keeps coming out of Baltimore every single day about who's available and who's not.
You got about 10 minutes to make that up, just so you know.
It's still going to be in pencil. We got another day of practice left.
That's a good point. And Dan, I know there's plenty of minuses on the Ravens side. There's a couple of pluses with Clark and Tyrann Mathieu returning to practice. Like, how do you feel that tips the balance?
Well, it's going to be interesting. This really lines up as more of a classic trap game. Baltimore is getting a ton of injuries, so like a lot of people are starting to put their money in on the Chiefs to kind of blow them out. It feels like one of those games where you could just kind of overlook it, even though I know the Chiefs won't ever say anything about overlooking teams. That's just not how they roll about it. So it's going to be I still think it's going to be a fun game. I do think that the injuries might be a little bit too much to overcome for Baltimore, specifically Ronnie Stanley. I know he didn't look 100% even in his first game back from his injury on Sunday. But again, he's an all-pro level tackle. You're going to not have him, and you're going to fortunately have Angelo Villanueva to get into left tackle where he's most comfortable. But with Frank Clark coming back, that just helps everyone get their one-on-ones and not necessarily have to deal with a bunch of doubles like John Reed did against the Cleveland. Like, he was just mauled in that game by that offensive line. So I think this will help him get a little bit more pressure up the middle on Lamar Jackson. What you really want to do is get up the middle and then have the defensive ends actually collapse on him so he's not getting out and just making your defense look silly. So Mathieu being back is obviously a huge, huge plus for the secondary. I thought they looked better in the second half, but that first half was really a bunch of confusion. You could see, Thornhill, Ward a couple times talking to each other, trying to figure out their own communication issues. So that will be a huge bonus as well.
Yeah. Matt, I think I know where you might go, but I'm just going to ask you, like, if there's one thing that this game will ride on, what do you think that it is?
Yeah, I think Daniel's onto it. I mean, it's just how the defense continues to get up for this game. You're right. I mean, I think the instinct is the possibility that the Chiefs could be looking at this as a letdown. That they're not going to be going up against a full-powered Baltimore offense. When you look at all the injuries that they have on the offensive line, Stanley is a huge loss because now you're going to be weaker at two positions with Villanueva moving over to the left side, and then somebody else is going to be on the right side. You've got a whole new backfield. And I asked, Steve Spagnuolo exactly that question on Thursday, which is, how do you prepare for a game like this when you've got a team like Baltimore who has so many injuries that you don't have a lot on film to prepare for? And he really said, it comes into two things. One is that with Baltimore, you're defending the scheme. I mean, that's different than a lot of other teams in that, you're really geared towards maybe individual players. In Baltimore, it's completely scheme driven. So, to a degree, and I think we saw it on Monday against Oakland, whomever they throw back there in the backfield is going to be a good runner. So, they don't have that big of a problem. And the other part of it is that no matter how good anybody else is, Baltimore's driven by number 8. Lamar Jackson's the guy. So, that's the guy that you've got to worry about and be scared of. So if the Chiefs aren't worried and scared of Lamar Jackson by himself, well, that's a problem. I mean, they should be. So to me, it's simply the defense being prepared for the scheme, being prepared for Lamar Jackson, because if they continue to meet the Lamar Jackson challenge as they have in these last 3 matchups, they're going to be fine.
Well, I think it's a unique opportunity too, because if I was Steve Spagnuolo, I would have answered that question. Is it gives us an opportunity to set the tone, to attack more than react, which is, I think, a problem with this defense across the board. Is they generally lull into reacting to what's coming at them, and with all those minuses, I'd be dialing up all kinds of aggression, not necessarily blitzing, but changing what Lamar is seeing, because I think that's the best way to hinder him, and obviously it's been working, but. Dan, if we flip over to the other side on the offense, what's the number one thing that they have to do in order to put enough points up here to get comfortable and I hope ride it out in the fourth quarter?
If we've learned anything from the last 4 meetings between this team and Wink Martindale, he doesn't change. He knows that Mahomes is going to carve up blitzes, and for some reason, he still brings those cover 0 looks. So if anything were to change, I mean, I have maybe a 15% chance that he will run less blitzes and try to actually play coverage. But I truly believe that they don't cover very well if they don't blitz. I think that this is an actual calculated risk that he takes because he looks at the players that he has. Maybe he's got some inexperience at linebacker. I know Patrick Queen's an extremely capable linebacker, but you're still learning a ton of different looks on offense as well from a linebacker's standpoint. So I think he understands that the players that he has aren't necessarily the best to just say, we're going to sit back in coverage and watch the offense, see what happens. So I think when he blitzes as much as he does, because he has to get there first. I watched the Raiders game, and Derek Carr was carving him up for over 400 yards in that game. And I saw a few of the dropbacks that they had where they didn't necessarily blitz so much, and it didn't look good. They don't have very many playmakers in Las Vegas outside of Darren Waller. And if you're getting carved up by those guys, that kind of tells me a little bit about your defense. So he has to take some calculated risks. So we know Mahomes himself can now read everything. He sees it. He knows where he wants to go, given of those, those cover 0 looks or those blitz looks. Now it's going to kind of be about what they do with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. He talked specifically about stopping those two in this game. So while they might blitz more, I think they might be a little bit more coverage sensed on those guys. And now you have to look to Mecole Hardman to continue to have success against the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe get Clyde more involved in the pass game. So I'm going to be looking specifically at Mecole Hardman in this game to have another touchdown plus in this game.
I need him or D-Rob to have a Bryan Edwards type game. They got put out, but I think that's because of the focus on the other two superstars, Matt. And for me, if I'm trying to design this defense, I know they're hurting at corner, but you can roll coverage over the top, and play 6 and stuff deep to guard against Tyreek. If it's me, I take my best defender that isn't in the front four in Marlon Humphrey, and I put him on Travis just to try to slow things down. Do you expect that, or do you think they'll do something a little bit more generic or something completely different?
Yeah, I mean, it's $1 million question to me because Daniel's exactly right. I mean, the Wing Martindale and the Ravens, they do what they do, and they don't do anything else for the most part. But part of that is, that they do play an aggressive blitzing defense, but they've always done it with a man behind it. And this right now, with all of the injuries and the issues, they don't have the talent to pull that off. They can't do that. And, you saw them against the Raiders playing a lot more zone than they've ever played before. And the problem is they don't know how to play it. They're not very good at it. I mean, I think Peyton Manning even pointed that out Monday night. They're not suited for it. They don't do it. So when they roll it out there, they're at a distinct disadvantage. But, so I think they've got a big decision to make because, we saw Cleveland, another case where they play a lot of zone defense designed to keep the play in front of them, to try and take away the deep ball, make sure that the Chiefs had to move the ball in chunks and, more of the 14 play 75-yard drives than the one play 75-yard drive. Of course, the one time that they put Tyreek Hill in single coverage, that's exactly what happens.
Yep.
So, I mean, if Baltimore comes out and decides they're going to make the Chiefs work for it and throws a zone defense, I think you're going to see what you saw on Monday night, which is that, they don't have as much talent up front as they've had in the past. So they're not going to be able to get the pressure on Mahomes that they need to. And if Mahomes just sticks with running the football, they commit to the run and even in the RPOs and just move the ball in chunks, they can move up and down the field all day. You asked the question, what do the Chiefs really need to avoid in this game to win? It's turnovers. I mean, that's what Baltimore is trying to do. And if Baltimore can create turnovers, they can stay in this game. And turnovers can cost them this game on the other side of the football too. So I don't think Mahomes is going to turn the ball over against this defense. It's going to be up to the Chiefs defense in turn, I think, to create some turnovers against Lamar.
Yeah, I like that plan. And folks, I'll just go ahead and announce it now. Be ready for next season's Monday Night Football in 2022 when we'll do the Peyton thing. We'll just give you a stream all night long during that game, unless the Chiefs are on, because then I have to actually pay attention. But I want to piggyback on what you're saying, though, Matt, because for me, controlling risk, I think, comes back to against that front against Cleveland. I don't think they had a chance to really get the run game going. Clearly, they didn't have as much success as they would like first time out and all that. Do you think they double that back down now, knowing that they're facing a rookie on one edge, Justin Houston on the other? We'll get to grudges here in a minute. But is that a possibility that maybe they can get something going that direction more?
Yeah, I would expect them to stay committed to it this week, and certainly to see what happens. And that's once again, it's a huge focus of this Chiefs offense this year to focus on what they are given, because the Chiefs are expecting every single week to be facing defenses that are going to try and take away the back end of the field. And if that's the case, and the Chiefs remain disciplined, we're hearing that more and more out of guys like Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, that discipline is their key. It's not that they're not going to take some shots downfield when they see the opportunities. But Mahomes has put a lot of this offseason, with the idea that, he can take what is being given to him. And running opportunities are going to be there. I mean, there absolutely are. With Cleveland, I think was just a bad fit. I mean, to a degree. I mean, the offensive line's brand new and it's working on some things, and they were all going up against a really, really tough front seven. With Baltimore, hey, this is not the same Baltimore team that we've seen in years past. You talk about the brand name, and that brings more, I think, fear into this game than is probably there on paper and on film. So I think the Chiefs were smart. I think they'll come out. I think they'll try and get the run game going. I think they'll try and get the screen game going. I would try to get Jerick McKinnon in the game in the first half and get him some touches and see what happens. They did not run the ball effectively against Cleveland. They did at least stay somewhat committed to it. But against a team like Baltimore and the situation they're in, they need to find out what the run game is, and they need to see, where the holes are.
Yeah. We'll flip it over, Dan. If there's somebody that scares you outside of Lamar Jackson for them on the Chiefs defense, who is it?
Man, this is, I mean, if Sammy Watkins plays, I guess that's like the guy you go to, because Marquise Brown is now dealing with an injury. You kind of know that Chiefs fans and a lot of people have this feeling and this bad taste in their mouth from Sammy Watkins for things that are out of his control. When he was on the field, he was pretty good at what he did. He was used a lot to take away attention from Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. he said that. A lot of Chiefs fans didn't like it, but it's very true. That's exactly what they used him for. And the games that they decided to have a game plan for him, he produced. So, I mean, that's really what you want to. He's probably going to lead them in targets. I would imagine that they're going to do a lot of play action stuff with, Tyson Williams to get Sammy Watkins open a little bit. I imagine that Hollywood Brown will go in this game, regardless of whether he's dealing with an injury. They'll still use him as a decoy deep down the field, and they're going to use Sammy Watkins on over routes because that's one thing that he can still do very well in this league, and I think he'll find some success in that with this play action game. So if I'm the Chiefs defense, I'm looking for them to get him involved, and then if it's not him, it's Mark Andrews. Those are the two guys outside of Lamar Jackson that you have to be aware of at all times for me.
I'm glad you bring him up too, because I'm concerned about a couple of things. One, Chavarez, you better be worried about that slant from Sammy because he's going to go take that. There's the overs as well. But for me, if Devin Duvernay was 100%, I would say, okay, I think he's a guy that can provide some spark as a secondary, tertiary receiver. And leaving L'Jarius in there on him was one thing. But now I don't think so. But Matt, do you think that they could do something strange, put L'Jarius on Andrews, who I think is the release valve and maybe still the number one target if they do treat Sammy with some respect?
They could. And I mean, I think you're right. I mean, to me, Sammy Watkins is, I can't believe I'm saying this, is the healthy, reliable option in the Baltimore Ravens offense. I mean, that's the one healthy, consistent that they have going for them right now, which speaks volumes about where they are. But I mean, I still think the Chiefs are going to be doing what they do, which is, I don't think that, I don't see, Snead necessarily traveling around. I mean, I think they're going to go with the matchups that are presented to them, and they're going to, leave the guys where they are. It'll be a little bit interesting to me, just, as far as maybe some of the sub packages that they go to this week, especially with having Tyrann Mathieu back. Mm-hmm. I'm probably expecting to see a lot less true 4-3. Probably a little bit less linebackers. I believe there'll probably be more 3 safety looks on the field, which should mean a lot fewer snaps for Ben Niemann and probably a few less snaps for Nick Bolton.
That's where I was going to ask you next.
But we'll see. I mean, that's the thing is that with Mathieu coming back, I mean, you've got the ability to have a lot of different guys line up on Andrews. I mean, you can play him with Dan Sorensen. You can play him with a linebacker. I mean, those are the two guys you've got to worry about to a degree. So I don't know if either one of them really requires some, bracket coverage and some double teams, but, I mean, you probably have that possibility. Now, the sleeper at all of this is that, we are really kind of ignoring the Baltimore backfield. Yeah. So, the idea that Latavius Murray or, Devontae Freeman, I mean, you've got little to no film on these guys and how they're fitting into the Baltimore offense. So, maybe they can sneak up and bite you. Tough, but they could.
Yeah. I'll tell you this too. I don't know that Lev Bell is ready to run, but that's 3 veteran running backs on top of Tyson that you can actually run at them. And if they feel they can't get anything else, maybe they revert to that. Maybe they try to put the pressure on Nick in particular. Maybe they try to attack him. But if it's me, I'm going to play mostly zone and look to make those opportunities you talked about at the top of the show to get those turnovers and try to force some hands. Maybe that opens them up to some of the run, but I just don't see that inside really taking advantage of Reed. And now that Nadi's practicing in full, I think he might be like the biggest help to Reed himself is having Nadi next to him.
Yeah, to me, I mean, having Frank Clark back, which all indications are that he will be able to play, that just adds so much more depth. So, that you won't maybe see some of the matchups that you had last week when, Joshua Kane was forced into coverage and, forced into action and had some tough snaps. And I just feel like that with Frank Clark out there, they're going to be able to be better against the run, and they should get a little bit more pass rush too. But I mean, part of it is that, the Chiefs are built with the idea that they're going to have to get pressure with 4 guys. If they can't get pressure with 4 consistently, it's going to be a problem because then they are going to have to go to some more exotic looks and they are going to have to bring a few more blitzes than expected. But they need to be able to consistently get pressure with 4 and 5. Now, obviously, outside of Chris Jones, they didn't do that against Cleveland. But with Frank Clark coming back, they should be able to do that. And once again, I mean, against this Baltimore offensive line with the injuries that they've got, if Frank Clark plays and the Chiefs don't have a significantly more effective pass rush this week, I would throw up some alarms at this point and some red flags because that's a problem.
Can I get a Chandler Jones? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Okay, Matt, I stalled as long as I possibly can. I'll start with Dan, so you get one more minute. But Dan, how do you see? What is your prediction for this ballgame?
The only way I can see Baltimore hanging in is if they do exactly what Cleveland did and just come out and try to run them over, because the Chiefs' defensive front against the run has been bad for the last 3 years and probably longer than that if we're being very honest about it. So that's what they're going to have to do. I don't believe at the end of the day it's going to matter, because what Patrick Mahomes in this offense does is shows you that you can run the ball all you want. They're going to find ways to score, and if you don't score every time down, guess what's going to happen? The script is going to flip and they're going to go up on you at one point. I think they're going to come out and lead this game the majority of the time. Baltimore might make it close at the end, but at the end of the day, I'm not really sure that that's going to be the case. Every time this happens, though, the Chiefs want to just kind of sit there on top. I want to see them not do that, but that's never going to happen, because Andy Reid refuses to ever just lay a hammer down and let us just rest in peace. So I'm going to be up late at night on Sunday worrying that there's going to be something happening, but I think the Chiefs are going to win like 35. My own personal opinion is they're going to put up at least 35 points, and they're going to hold Baltimore to 21.
Okay. You want me to go, Matt? Are you ready?
I will fire away. And Dan makes a great point, which is that we talk a lot about the Chiefs playing, close games and one-score games, but the reality of it is that a lot of times these are multiple score games that just get close at the end. And to me, I mean, that's where I have the most difficult time trying to figure out this game. I mean, early in the week, I was giving a lot more credit, I think, to the brand name. And then as the injuries continue to filter in, I think this is going from a one-score game to a multiple-score game. Pencil me in. It's Thursday. I mean, I can still make some changes on Saturday. We have one more day of practice to go.
Right.
I'm going to pencil it in at 34-23. Wouldn't be surprised if it's 34-16, though. I mean, that's the kind of game I could see this being.
Okay. Well, hey, you're right next to mine. I have it 35-24 Chiefs, so I'm not too worried about it. But, folks, we want to know what you think. Leave your prediction down in the comments on YouTube. And if you're hearing this over on the audio feed, go back to YouTube, okay? Matt, we'll have you post-game at some point, right? And Dan and I will fill in on Monday, folks. Make sure that you get ready for this game in all of its glory. Pay attention to ChiefsDigest.com so you can find out who's in, who's not, who gets hurt tomorrow for the Ravens. Who knows? Parting thought, Matt. Anything I haven't asked you about or we're forgetting completely?
I think we've talked just about everything. I mean, I think that Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu being back are going to be big keys, and I want to see more from this defense. The biggest question, honestly, that the Chiefs still need to answer is who's going to step up amongst the wide receiver core. And certainly after this week, when I think that they've been consistently called out, the Mecole Hardmans, Demarcus Robinsons, the Byron Pringles of the world, if one of them doesn't step up this week and have a big game, when are they? I mean, this is the time to do it, especially when that group is taking some heat that, the Chiefs could use a reliable number 2 receiver. It's time for one of these guys to step up.
I'm with you. Dan, parting shot. What do you got?
All right, guys. I know I said last week that Anthony Hitchens was going to have a great game. That was before I knew that Tyrann Mathieu and Frank Clark weren't going to play. That's going to happen this week. I think Frank Clark's front defense is going to help open up those rushing lanes and those lanes that he can get down into and really force Lamar Jackson to be a quarterback and not just have to run around everywhere. So I think Anthony Hitchens is going to be a very big factor in the way that the Chiefs defense ultimately plays against the run.
Okay. I'll just call it now. Clyde, 120 yards on the ground.
Bring it.
Folks, let us know what you think. Click the like, the sub, and the bell notification. Check out ChiefsDigest.com. Thanks for watching today. Enjoy your weekend, and we will talk to you post-game. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more, and subscribe to RGR